How did this happen now, Jason? Couldn't the Redskins see the writing on the wall that this wasn't going to work out?
Well, Rich, it's been a whirlwind of activity. I'll try to just encapsulate everything here. Basically, Jay Gruden wanted to make this move last year. For Jay Gruden, he determined that Robert Griffin III, as Mike Shanahan and Kyle Shanahan determined, could not function in a pro-style offense if he had to operate from the pocket predominantly. That was the assessment that the previous head coach and offensive coordinator reached, and the current head coach reached that assessment very quickly. However, people above Jay Gruden were not willing to completely cut ties with Robert Griffin III. And, Rich, here's the thing. You can understand to a degree it was a huge, huge payout that the Redskins had to make to get Griffin, the 3 first-round picks, the number 2 pick to get the pick to take him, and then they paid him almost $25 million, or it'll be about $25 by the end of this year. So you can understand why there was reluctance on the part of senior management to make this move. But ultimately, the game tape from the Detroit Lions game was so bad, it was so horrific, that it was basically a situation where after everything that happened during the preseason, the training camp practices, which also were not good, that Jay Gruden and Scott McLuhan, the new general manager, determined they could not, in good conscience, move forward with Robert Griffin III as a starting quarterback, which has led us to this decision today. And the key thing, Rich, is all of 2015 will be Kirk Cousins. And the reason that's key is there are people in the organization who have felt that Cousins' turnover problems and his poor demeanor after bad games in large part had to do with the fact that the specter of Griffin was always out there. That Kirk Cousins knew that they gave up all those picks and they paid him all that money, so he had to be perfect, essentially, to try to keep the job. The Redskins are no longer going to the Robert Griffin III well, so Kirk Cousins, what they're saying is, okay, you have no pressure on you other than to be a successful NFL quarterback, which is pressure in and of itself. Show us what you can do.
Jason Reid, ESPN.com, joining me here on the Rich Eisen Show. Before moving forward, I still want to stay in the past. So how does Jay Gruden get hired if they already were told by a 2-time winning Super Bowl head coach that the kid is not a pocket passer, and the kid comes and basically says, I want to be a pocket passer? How do they go ahead and hire somebody whose offense is predicated on being a pocket passer? How does something like that happen, Jason?
Well, Rich, what it came down to was, and Mike Shanahan has talked about this, the owner, Daniel Snyder, backed Robert Griffin III, and he didn't back Mike Shanahan. Mike Shanahan has talked about this. He's been open about it. It was clear to Mike Shanahan that the things Robert Griffin III told him during after the 2012 season was something that he had the backing of the owner. So what you had is a situation where they felt that Shanahan was the problem. Shanahan and his son Kyle, who was the offensive coordinator, they felt those guys were the problem, and that all they needed to do, they being Bruce Allen, the general manager at the time, and Dan Snyder, the owner, just get a coach in here who was a good guy and who could work with Robert, and everything would be fine. The problem, Rich, came in because the new coach quickly determined that Robert could not do the things that Mike Shanahan said he couldn't do. So all of a sudden you have the guy who was charged and tasked with fixing Robert Griffin III reaching a conclusion even quicker than the previous regime did that this is not going to work.
So why did they go ahead and give him the $16.2 million one-year contract for next year? Why did they just not go into the season and say, let's see what happens, Jason?
Well, Rich, you have to understand that for much of the time from the season ended last year till now, it's been all about trying to prop up Griffin and make this thing work. You pick up the $16.155 million option, which you exercise that option, which I wrote was a horrible move, something they should not have done. But they did it because they were trying to give him confidence. They were trying to prop him up. They were trying to say to their fan base, their beleaguered and fatigued fan base, that, hey, look, we believe in this guy. He's still our guy, and we're going to show you how much we believe him, and we're going to pick up this option. The problem with exercising the option is it was guaranteed only for injury. With Robert's injury history, it was more than just a little bit of a gamble. I mean, this is a guy who's had 2 major knee reconstructions, a severe ankle injury. So it became a situation where, okay, how long are they going to let this play out? Because if he can't pass a physical at the beginning of the new league year, they're on the hook for that contract. But that's not going to be an issue anymore.
So do you believe he's played his last snap for the Washington Redskins, Jason?
Yeah, I do. I believe that ultimately they're going to release him.
When he clears the concussion protocol?
That would be my guess. I mean, I want to say this is just my opinion about this. I'm speculating on this, but my belief is, Rich, that once he is cleared medically, he will not be on the team much longer.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern. On Audience.